In this first session, the topic is trans-temporal and transcultural. And we have three papers from three countries, all in Asia. And the first paper is from Korea, the second from Japan, and the last one from Thailand. Okay, and I have made a mistake. Have made many mistakes as always. But the first mistake is I forgot to mention our sponsors, and one of our sponsors was here, and I forgot to acknowledge them. So I will do it now. Okay, for the record. Okay, for the record. Okay, so this trans conference is co-organized by the Department of Dramatic Arts, Faculty of Arts, Chulalongkorn University, and International Association of Theatre Critics, Thailand Center, with the kind support of the Office of Contemporary Arts and Culture, Ministry of Culture of Thailand, and Contemporary Arts and Culture Industry Promotion Trade Association of Thailand, or CAPT, and Embassy of France in Thailand. So we'd like to acknowledge their support. And for the moderator of this session is our colleague from Prague, Shakir, who hosted the World Congress last year in Brno. And just arrived in Thailand ahead of our schedule, and he had just given a physical workshop here as well, and he's also running the Young Critics workshop as part of our activities here. And he has become a fan of mango sticky rice. He's been having it every day, including now. Please welcome Hannah Stechkova.
Thank you, Pavid. And I would like to invite for the first lecture, for the first contribution, Wawan Lee, Professor Emeritus of Sangkyung University from Korea, and the representative of Center for the Arts Beyond Boundaries, and Editor-in-Chief of Theatre Criticism, author of many books, and President of Korean Association of Theatre Critics. So, your trends, the dynamics of life and theatre, please.
Okay, good morning. And thank you very much for hosting this wonderful event in South Asia. And I'm very honored to be here. I was invited into Chulalongkorn University about 20 years ago, when I was really young. And I presented some productions of Racine, Jean Racine, at the time. And now I'm back and honored again. Okay, the title of my paper, Trans Dynamics of Life and Theater. Do you hear me clearly? It's all right? Okay. The history of humanity or theater reveals that considerable time is required to resolve conflicts and contradictions before a specific system becomes entrenched and widely accepted. The transitional period during which new norms are tentatively explored and begin to establish themselves is the era of trans. Trans is defined as changing or having changed from one thing to another by famous Cambridge Dictionary. This notion echoes the tensions described by Mikhail Bakhtin, who referred to the threshold when he articulates that, in fact, Dostoevsky always represents a person on the threshold of a final decision at a moment of crisis, at an unfinalized and undeterminable turning point of his soul. Trans arises from the necessity of overcoming crisis at these undefined turning points. The artistic expression of a trans highlight the arrival of new aesthetics characterized by vibrancy and instability. 3 productions from the previous season in Korea exemplify trans, dynamic and unstable aesthetic of transition in distinct ways. Trans 1 is Tungso Sound by Seoul Metropolitan Theater, addresses the transition from novel to theater. Trans 2, Finding the Sun by Ido Company, illustrates the shift from real life space to virtual space. Trans 3, Tales and Legends by Joël Bombra, depicts a fictional world where AI partners accompany humans in every aspect of life, beginning to replace human companions in reality. Tungso Sound is written and directed by Sun Eun-go and played in Sejong Theater M, November 11th to 27th, 2024. Sun Eun-go adapted the classic Korean novel Choi-cheok-jeon, written in 1621 by Wi Han-che. In this production, what stands out is his ability to honor the original novel's essence while infusing his unique directorial approach, characterized by ellipses and abrupt transitions, resulting in a production that is even more vibrant than his previous work, clearly demonstrating the dynamics of trance. The narrative is led by actor Ho Jae-lee, who starts by sharing the personal story of the titular character Choi-cheok in his later years, explaining that he will assume Choi-cheok's role. Dressed in traditional attire from Yi Dynasty and holding his own storybook, the narrator serves as a bridge between scenes, frequently engaging with the audience throughout the performance. This creates a monologue-like atmosphere where the narrator not only guides the action, but also influences the unfolding scenes in response to his storytelling. The sets and props for each scene are kept simple to accommodate the frequent and sudden scene changes, reflecting novel's expansive epic drama that spans worlds and travels across various Asian countries. The elder Che even joins in on the scenes, engaging with other characters, including his younger self. The narrator's role adds depth to this production, effectively highlighting the unique adaptation of trance from novel to theater. It fosters a dialogue between different narrative forms and between characters of different functions. Through this strategy, the production successfully translates the essence of original narrative into a compelling theatrical experience. You have the pictures of the performance. This is the beautiful pictures of the performance. And tungso is a musical instrument, very famous and very widely common. And the young Choi-cheok is playing tungso, which is a symbol of love with his wife. And old Choi-cheok is just telling stories and intervene in the scenes, as you see. And Choi-cheok and his wife. And you see the prop are very simple. It's made out of some paper instead for a ship. And the next production is Finding the Sun. From November 1st to 3rd, 2024, the picturesque city of Gangneung, South Korea, hosted 3 performances as part of its new cultural brand initiative, supported by Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism. Finding the Sun, Quest, collect the debris of the broken sun and restore, written and directed by Andy Ki-hoon-yoon, stands out. This production took place within the Dreaming Saimdang Center for Arts, formerly an elementary school located near Ojukon, the birthplace of Madame Saimdang Shin, where she gave birth to her son Yulgok Lee, one of the most distinguished scholars of the Yi dynasty. Finding the sun unfolds throughout the entire center, encompassing the main hall, classrooms, corridors, yard, and even the stairways. The audience is invited to navigate the boundary between the real world and the realm of fiction, with a mission given to collect the debris of dreams of people in order to restore the broken sun. The most impressive sight must be the wall at the end of the corridor of third floor. The audience is guided in front of a white wall, and suddenly actors' faces and hands push out into the audience from the surface of that wall. All the people inside the wall are those who are lost in the middle of their lives, waiting for its end without any hope. A new member who used to be an Olympic athlete always ranked only fourth. She's just about to give up her entire career as an athlete and was suddenly thrown into the inside of the wall. Now aware of her situation, the athlete still shouts for help to get out of it. The audience experiences not only a trance from real life space to virtual space, but also encounters characters in the midst of their transition, standing on the threshold of final decision at a moment of crisis as articulated by Park Jin. You see the people from everywhere of the center, boxer and hunter, and face from the wall, and cook, and photographer, and finally, the sun is restored with all the debris of broken dreams. Okay. And the last performance is Tales and Legend. Last fall in Korea, the LG Arts Center present Tales and Legend, written and directed by Joël Pombra and Compagnie Louis Bruyard, as its final foreign entry for 2024. Tales and Legend is an episodic theatrical work that delves into Pombra's exploration of human society in a slightly futuristic context. In a time of upheaval, how will young people engage with AI in their lives is the main question of this production. As usual, Pombra worked closely with his adult actors on the script as well as on the performances for the roles of adolescents and robots. The production consists of 11 episodes drawn from everyday life, highlighting young people and their various relationships in society. For them, the world looks unstable and precarious, reflecting the fragility of their connections with others. The production illustrates the relationship between various young people and their companion robots. Often, these robots provide more comfort and solace than the connections these individuals have with other humans. One character experiences shock and confusion when he realized that the partner he has fallen in love with is in fact a robot. Meanwhile, another character is solely focused on selling his robot companion to afford a more advanced model devoid of any emotional attachment. Youngsters enthusiastically cheer for idle robots, regardless of whether they are mere machines or not. Ultimately, diverse scenarios raise important questions. How should we coexist with non-human designed to embody our ideas? Should we treat these non-humans as if they are human, or should we regard them merely as objects or toys? There are no clear answers to these questions, leaving the audience in a state of uncertainty or on the threshold. What is particularly intriguing is how the director presents the performance. The entire presentation does not flow seamlessly from beginning to end. Instead, it frequently transitions with blackouts between distinct scenes. The mechanical interruption of the performance combined with a small stage set within the larger main stage of a signature hall emphasizes that the world the audience observes is ultimately a fiction. Rather than providing a realistic representation of life, the director plays with the boundaries between reality and theatrical illusion. Tales and Legends by Joël Pomera reveals thus a world teetering on the threshold of in various ways. It ultimately calls for a new perspective on humanity's relationship with the world around us. We find ourselves navigating a constantly evolving human experience, emphasizing both the necessity and the risks of our connection to robots or fictional worlds. These invite the audience to reflect on the nature and value of being human in a reality where non-human entities often seem more human-like than human themselves. These are pictures. The actor playing the role of robot, and the youngsters confronting each other. And the another scene is a robot is about to be sold, and just calm and I'm friendly, I love you, he's telling. Okay. Our lives are never static, they are always evolving. However, we can identify moments of more vivid transition that provide us with opportunities for profound self-reflection. I have presented 3 productions from different perspectives, each offering a chance for individuals to engage in dialogue with themselves and to consider living as a new version of themselves. In terms of theatrical aesthetics, we can also find the theme of trance or the dynamics of genre in conversation with non-theatrical forms, a novel in Tungso Sound, real-life space in Discovery of the Sun, the interplay of reality in Tales and Legend. It is the dynamics of trance that resonate deeply within the hearts and minds of the audience. And
Thank you very much to Hwawan Lee. We will come back with Q&A after the panel. So I would like to invite you the next speaker with Professor Manabu Noda, Professor of Literature at Meiji University from Tokyo. And his paper examines the interplay between ambiguous political enclosure and theatrical representation following the contemporary theater. So, Ghosts from the Past, Transtemporal Viewing of the Present in Japan's Recent Theater. And please, Professor Manabu Noda, it's your turn.
Thank you. Am I being able to share my slides here? I'm not quite sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, hello. I'm here again. And in this presentation, I will examine how the assassination of ex-Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and consequent erosion of his far-right faction within his Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, affected contemporary theatrical practice. In particular, I will discuss the political hole Abe's assassination created and examine how it may have impacted 2 recent plays. That is, number 1, Tomohiro Maekawa's Delivering the Executed Soul in 2023, and the Bungakuza Ateliers Washing the Stones in 2024. Okay, so the first section is, the title is this, and on the 8th of July 2022, Japan experienced a brutal political event. It's not even transgressive, as Jean-Pierre said, it's aggressive, sheerly aggressive. That was when former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated while delivering a political campaign speech in Nara. Abe, who served as Prime Minister in 2 non-consecutive terms, and the longest-serving Prime Minister after World War II, actually, he was recognized both domestically and internationally as a transformative yet polarizing figure. His policies, most notably those encapsulated in the so-called Abenomics, sought to revitalize Japan's stagnating economy. Moreover, his nationalistic rhetoric, epitomized by the slogan "Make Japan Beautiful Again," it's not MAGA, but it's MJBA. Well, his slogan invoked both admiration and critique. Many observers, particularly on the political left in Japan and in neighboring countries with histories of imperial trauma, that is, in this case, aggressor was Japan, perceived his political stance as a continuation of nationalist traditions. The assailant, a 41-year-old man, was motivated by personal grievances stemming from a 2002 incident involving the unification church. Originating in South Korea, the UC, or Unification Church, has been widely criticized for coercing its members into making exorbitant donations in Japan. Importantly, the church's political affiliations extended to Japan's ruling elite. Abe's own family had historical ties with the UC, as exemplified by the involvement of Nobusuke Kishi, the former LDP prime minister and a controversial figure with links to Japan's imperial past. In the aftermath of Abe's death, the nature of political discourse in Japan underwent some changes. True, the election results for Japan's House of Councillors in the same month of July seemed to trigger pity votes. Where am I? So as the LDP secured 6% more seats. However, the post-assassination period saw intensified scrutiny of the connections between the LDP and the UC. The revelation of these ties provoked internal turmoil within the party. Wrote about the crisis in political discourse, clear ideological demarcations embodied by the stark contrast between conservative nationalism and progressive dissent gave way to a more fragmented and fluid discourse. Heated haranguing between the right and the left apparently began to subside. In this emerging landscape, political language is no longer a tool solely for delineating oppositional camps, but rather an arena in which disaffections and grievances are continuously negotiated and redefined. The resulting political reconfiguration, perceived by a money scandal in 2024, resulted in the serious erosion of Abe-affiliated far-right factions, an agenda in the House and the LDP itself, which is now a part of a minority government under Shigeru Ishiba, whom you are seeing right now. Okay, next to the next section. In some recent theatrical productions can be seen the shadow cast by these shifts in political discourse. Delivering the Executed Soul, written and directed by Tomohiro Maekawa, provides a case in point. The play deliberately refrains from making any overt moral or political denunciation. Rather, it constructs an atmosphere of pervasive unease, a condition reflective of the current state of political and social ambiguity. Now, in a corner of the detention center, there is a small box which contains a blob, a slimy thing, which we are told to have fallen out from the body of an executed prisoner. The groans occasionally heard from the box spooked those around. Yakumo, a prison officer with an injured leg, believes it is the soul of the executed. At a loss how to handle it, the authorities releases the soul blob as a form of amnesty. Yakumo decides to deliver it to a matron figure called Yamadori. The Yamadori is the woman on the right. So Yamadori lives in a cottage in a deep forest. Smartphones and GPS are useless because no signals reach there. Yakumo, the prison officer, with the soul in the box and a map in hand, visits her. And in her cottage, those with wounds and traumas live close to one another. Yamadori has given shelter to them and provided them with care. There, Yakumo finds a man named Jin, the guy who is being cared for by Yamadori that you see on the photo. He was rescued by Yamadori when he was lost and weakened in the forest. Yakumo, who knew Jin and his affiliation with the public security police, guesses the reason for his visit. People who were cared for by Yamadori and returned to town all referred to her as their mother. Some of her residents have regained their health and returned to town, while others ventured deeper into the forest, hoping to traverse it. Some remained there to be cared for until the end of their days, but others, who went back to town, committed crimes which shook society, just like the singer who left his soul blob behind. Yamadori is caring but detached. She neither aligns with any specific political ideology nor engages in overt judgment. The apolitical stance may be interpreted as a form of resignation, or alternatively, as an expression of quiet resilience. The play is further complicated when it is when it is disclosed that Yamadori is transgender, underlining the cottage's liminality. We learn that Yamadori has lost her partner, who had committed suicide following an investigation into a political scandal in 2018. Her grief is not explicitly politicized in the text of the play, but that strikes odd to the Japanese audience because the loss of her partner is a clear allusion to a cover-up of a political scandal in 2018. That is the play's sole allusion to any outside theater real-life event. Japan Broadcasting Corporation, or NHK, reports the tragedy as follows. The widow of Akagi Toshio says he was pressured into falsifying documents relating to the cut price sale of public land to a school operator, Moritomo Gakuen, that had links to the Prime Minister's wife. And she revealed that he left behind a suicide note that read, "I will kill myself to take responsibility as someone who knows the truth," as well as memos stating that the tampering was ordered by Finance Bureau Chief Sagawa Nobuhisa. As Yakumo listened to the narratives of the wounded, he begins to become aware of his own wounds. He confesses his fear that he might not have anything that could be called a soul, and he begins to tell his own story. After a family celebration of being accepted by the university of his choice, his son suddenly went missing. Yakumo's search has been fruitless, but having learned that his son was a fan of one pop singer, he decides to go to his open-air concert. The singer starts talking to his audience, emceeing, and then he decides to go, and then suddenly he begins to shoot them indiscriminately, killing several and injuring Yakumo's leg. The Yakumo is still in the dark. The soul blob that he has brought is that of the singer, but he is still in the dark as for the reason why his son has gone missing. Yakumoto's sustained search for meaning, framed by the persistent groans of the soul blob, is part of his struggle to reconcile with internal grief and to give it a sense of closure. He has had to strain his ears to listen to the groans coming from the dead in silence. A critical moment in the play occurs when Yamadori proposes the ingestion of the soul blob. She rationalizes this proposition by saying that prolonged boiling renders almost any substance edible. And you can see the actual quote on the screen. Eating it, she says, is the best way to mourn the dead and will give closure to grief. Now, I think theater can function as a repository for memory, a site where past traumas are preserved, reimagined, and examined. Theater can also act as a forum for the resuscitation and or reconstruction of political language. Alternatively, theater can just make the audience listen to the ambiguous voices from the dead without analyzing them. Apparently, delivering the executed soul tries to make the audience eat what is left with us after the center of discourse has disappeared with the assassination of Abe. The silent or silenced groans from the soul blob do not provide univocal critiques or definitive narratives, but simply foreground uncertain and unresolved remnants of the past. The point of the play lies in the fact that Yamadori's apparent aloofness from political judgment is coupled with her readiness to cook and eat the soul blob, and with it, silent and silenced voices from the dead. Eat them, digest them later. Don't just leave them lying around as if they were not part of us. Now we're in the third section. The reconfiguration of political discourse in Japan is further illuminated by the Bungakuza Atelier's production of Washing the Stones, or Issuo Alao in Japan in 2024. It was written by Tomoyuki Nagayama and directed by Maria Gonohe. The play was performed in a hastily revised version in the wake of the massive earthquake that struck the Noto Peninsula on the New Year's Day 2024, a disaster that blew away the festive mood of Tokyo and re-invoked memories of the great Eastern Japan earthquake of 2011, the one which led to the nuclear meltdown in Fukushima. In Washing the Stones, the relationship between natural calamity and the persistence of historical memory is examined through the prism of fantasy no theater. Now, when you want to listen to the dead, their voices are transtemporal, not transcendental. You want to articulate your desire, guilt, and anxiety not only in the past to present direction, but also in the future to present. Because after all, you are bound to project yourself onto the voices from the dead, and that's exactly why theater is so transsubjective. Now, abounding in ghosts, no theater provides a suitable framework for examining themes of transience and memorialization, as well as future projection. Several different storylines are interwoven in the play. One story, which is situated in Tokyo, follows a company employee. While commuting, he sees a placard which demands a voting right for the dead. After an enigmatic encounter with a dog, he contemplates a return to his hometown in Fukushima. All the other narratives develop around those in a remote Kyushu village undergoing serious depopulation, struggling with personal sense of loss. The story, which is most pertinent to the play's title, Washing the Stones, centers on a man responsible for the maintenance of gravestones in the village. When he is washing gravestones in the cemetery, he is visited by the ghost of the gravestone cleaner's wife in the guise of a young woman. And that's the photo that you are now seeing. Her brief remark, "Life passes in an instant, doesn't it?" encapsulates the transitory quality of existence and the unresolved sense of loss. Now, intriguingly, Washing the Stones not only looks back on the past, but also looks forward to the future. I don't have the slide for this, but this is a very important point. The play makes it clear from the very beginning that its timeline starts exactly 1 year before the great earthquake that struck northeast Japan on March the 11th, 2011, the one with Fukushima meltdown. Consequently, the prayer of the living is directed not only toward the dead of the past, but also toward the future. This, I think, is a good case for what I would like to call the act of trans-temporal viewing of the present. Viewing the present not only from the past, but also from the future. It calls to mind Kierkegaard's idea of repetition, where in his Repetition, written around 1843, he writes this: "Repetition and recollection are the same movement, except in opposite direction. For what is recollected has been and is repeated backward, whereas a genuine repetition is recollected forward. Repetition, therefore, if it is possible, makes a person happy, whereas recollection makes him unhappy." Unquote. In the Bible, Job is doubly rewarded after enduring several trials. From this, the poetically inclined young man in the narrative of Kierkegaard's Repetition argues that one's own suffering should similarly be requited in the future, though his exaltation does not last. As Kierkegaard himself notes with his "if it is possible" caveat, we cannot help posing this question: is true repetition really possible? To me, answering yes to the question seems excessively optimistic, even irresponsible. Without coming to terms with the past, how can one possibly recall the future? The ambiguous loss persists. Underlying all of this is the persistent feeling of being unable to properly mourn. In order not to consign the crisis of COVID-19 and the earthquakes in 2011 and 24 solely to mechanism of forgetfulness, one turns one's thoughts and prayers not only toward the past, but to the future. In the same space, caught amid increasingly complex issues and uncertain about where to direct their feelings, performers and audiences share their emotions, anxieties, fears, in the form of repetition or trans-temporal prayer, thereby attempting to reposition the present from both the past and the future. Now we are in the conclusion part. The examination of these two plays seem to underline the lack of political closure. Japan had suddenly lost its central point of reference in the figure of Shinzo Abe, a politician long subjected to both praise and blame. Many former Abe faction members lost their seats over a slush fund scandal. And after the general election, the Ishiba-led coalition became a minority government. Yet for many voters, these election results do not mean a definitive judgment or condemnation of Abe's politics. Without a full evaluation of Abe's legacy, negative or positive, and in the prospect-turned reality of Donald Trump's presidency in the US, Japan now seems to be in the midst of reassessing its post-World War II path and reconstructing its political discourse. In this immature discursive environment, the object of resentment remains ambiguous. Both delivering the executed soul and washing the stones eschew didacticism in favor of ambiguity. Rather than offering clear resolutions, these texts underscore the inescapable past and uncertain future. The erosion of adversarial discourse in politics is paralleled by a dramaturgical fluidity and indeterminacy. In both domains, the processes of meaning-making are marked by a persistent tension between the need for closure and the shadow of open-ended loss. By interrogating the interplay between memory, grief, and political transformations, these theatrical productions contribute to an ongoing re-examination of how society articulates its collective past and envisions its future. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you to Professor Manabunoda for a very interesting text. And the next contribution is based on interdisciplinary approach. The dramaturg as an internal critic in revisitation, cross-cultural collaboration, and co-creation in the case study of Ubasute by Navatrapi Suntortenan. So, and Navatrapi is a treasurer of AICT, IATC Thailand Center, and lecturer at Assumption University. So please, if you can share with us your contribution.
Thank you for your introduction. So, sorry, I can open this file. Okay, I think this would be good. Okay. Hi everybody, right? And I am Naparapi from IATC Thailand, and I am also the lecturer in creative communication and performance communication from Assumption University Thailand. And I would like to present one of my research onto working as a dramaturg, as the internal, or in other words, we call in-house critic, right? In revisitation. The topic is the dramaturg as internal critic in revisitation, cross-cultural collaboration and co-creation in case of study of Ubasite. All right. So for the project here, it's Ubasite sounds. It's the one of the adapted version of from Japanese folklore and into the performance, right? And we do the research initiatively to represent a significant contribution to the emerging field of practice-based research in Thai performing arts. But we borrow the context from socio-cultural and historical context from Japan in that we explore from literary works, right? Okay, and anthropological approach into this, and this is this project is inspired by the academic research conducted by Professor Ataya Suwanrada, and the project is entitled "The Legends of Elderly Abandonment in Japanese Tales." And this is she works in the faculty of arts here in the Department of Japanese Language and Literature and Japanese Studies. Right. Okay. So this project framework, conceptual framework, persists the performance as the medium to interrogate and allegorize on dimensions of elderly experience, and under the executive production and academic direction of Assistant Professor Dr. Prapatson, who is the colleague of our lead discussion today. This initiative project has established a collaboration that transcends traditional academic boundaries, and it also integrates performing arts research from institutions in, how can we say, it's creating a diverse production team from various university from Thailand as production team, that very practicum approach and the theoretical perspective, right? And the legend of Ubasite is the subject number of the Japanese legend, although these tales appear to be about the abandonment of the elderly. And now we use this project to communicate about the global aging society. From this, we found now that aging societies become of the social issue that has been growing a lot, especially in Asian country, in Thailand, in Japan, as well as in I think in South Korea too now, right? So from the area of socio-cultural commonalities, I found out that at least we would like to find the bridge to make all of these things matter, even it's kind of like transnational, transcultural message to convey to the audience. So in order to pick up this story to be adapted in pseudo-Japanese context, right? We try to make the bridge by some of the ethical concept. In Thailand, we have the concept that we call katanyu. That means it is the Buddhist practice that we have to love and even like we have to care and remind and recognize and be deeply conscious about what our parents care us before and until we have this today, right? Okay, and another that I found, and it's really really interesting for me, it's I found another concept in neo-Confucianism that it can be translated as filial piety in Japanese culture, which is called oyagogo, right? Okay, so we can have the bridge of this kind of the starting point or initiative threshold to adapt the story into for Thai audience, right? Okay, so this thing because like the story itself has deeply talking about the tragedy and the relationship between the family members, so it becomes our like base story that we use as the medium for this. But actually at first we according to pandemic COVID pandemic outbreak and the situation drive us change or transform the presentation from live performance that we had set up to be showing in 5 rounds in Bangkok Art Center, Cultural Center, and then we have to switch into it online. So that's why it and now you can watch it in the YouTube of Chulalongkorn University and the Faculty of Communication Arts as well, right? Okay, now it's launched already. So one of the key concepts that I would like to expand today, it's about translation of like the Japaneseness in Thai perception, and we try to make it into like one style of the performance that is transcultural and transmedia recreation as well. Okay, right? So the picture taken here, it's like some part of the production that we have done back then, and the way that I use for the research methodology is I use 2 things. Firstly is participatory observation, because I work as a co-creator in there, and I work as a dramaturg who is not just only like okay run the process with them in especially for researching and execute lots of the elements in the production, but as well during the process I think one of the functions of the dramaturg as in-house critic can support the production team a lot, right? And help them to find the choice, the creative choice to solve lots of the problem that we have to confront. Like we have one of the professional dramaturgs here, right? Okay, he graduated from Glasgow, and I really feel so honored with that. Right. Okay. So, firstly, I would like to ground myself because more or less the position of dramaturg it's remain kind of like non-boundary, and as well, and it's not quite like stable, that stable definition or clear, right? So in this project, I just have one of the unofficial translation or the concept on the position of dramaturg here. I would like to call it as creative buddy for a missing pieces fulfillment, right? Basically, we used to have the word for it is a academic, how can we say, theoretical scholar in the production. So that may be another definition that will help us to understand about this. So the establishment of my position as a production dramaturg within the sound of Ubasite is grounding that framework that defines the scope of dramaturgical practice. And this positioning acknowledges the dramaturg essential function as critical reflector throughout the creative process. So by that, I would like to set up some words that maybe help us clarifying what will be included in terms of the position as the dramaturg here. We are connector and communicationer, right? Okay, or communicator and the choices provider to the team. Because when I found some of the something that we may disagree to the creator or to artistic director, or even like in some points in director's perspective. So that's why we propose something to them. So we provide them some choices. And I also work according to my working experience in theater production. So I was in like the position of co-creator and in-house critic. And one of these things is that we could see that we collaborate with lots of units in the production. Firstly, and unavoidably, we work with the playwright to develop the script. Especially for the performance, we work with the art director and the designer, and we work with the director who have to look after all of the cast, right? Okay, so the position of dramaturg here, it's more or less, we call is in between it, right? And one of the things that I would like to make it into like funny, ridiculous. It's some ridiculous concept, but help me to explain about what we have done in the production. I would prefer to use the word RIP, right? R stand for research, I stand for inspiration, and P stand for process, right? So easy like that. So because of that, RIP, I try to like divide, classify the steps of doing my functions as a dramaturg in 3 phases, right? The first phase is the research. We definitely do the contextual and conceptual research for the production. That will help us to clarify the socio-political contextual analysis relevant to the performances, representational strategy, and we try to get into and search for a documentary investigation of quotidian practices within the depicted locale in the story. And we've done like lots of the aesthetic research to identify appropriate theatrical mise-en-scène elements under some context and conditions of presentation. The second one, I call it as its felicitation. And we do the collaborations with the key production personnel, particularly the playwright, director, performers in art direction and designing team I just mentioned. And we try to integrate the socio-cultural elements with aesthetic considerations to realize their artistic vision. And we continuous doing the critical reflections and because of this function as an internal critique or as internal evaluation, help them to ensure the cohesive integration of disparate productions elements into a unified artistic world, right? Because they may have their own world. I have heard some of my like member back then. They said that because director has their own view and their world, their boundaries. Artistic director, they may have like some kind of vision, or even the cast themselves, or even the playwright. So one key function as the critic as well as the communicator is blend them together and try to do seamless collaborations between them, right? And the next thing is just comes up as from the disruption from COVID-19 outbreak is to we have to think in different way, that we would like to make the shooting production that look like the audience look like they attended the live performance as much as possible, because we know that when we watch all of this performance on screen, it cannot compare to some energetic feedback or even like the power. We could not sense the power of the performer as we did in live performance. So in the research, okay, so I set out the mission here to do the thing that we call like retelling and representing authenticity of the Japaneseness here, that I divided into another three layer. Firstly is we make the research to the literary legends of Ubasite and determining the aesthetic architecture of the dramatic literature. And then we switch to the socio-cultural context that help them discovering the necessary elements to transform the script into living performance under some context and conditions and limitations. And we do the reviewing the productions from the critical perspective and dramaturgical practice and co-create with them by applying the knowledge in contextually relevant ways for contemporary audiences at the time and space, right? So when I do this, I take like the concept of ghost light from Michael Shamer, who is like he wrote one of the book that is really really good for and the practical dramaturgy working in the productions so well, right? But because of that, when we have to represent some other socio culture in another, how can we say, locations, we have to be really really careful to select something that will be respectful to the original culture, as well as it can be transferred to the understandings to our target audience, right? So by this, and according to another experience of me as the students of comparative literature, I took some critical perspective from the critical theory. So I take the representation connects meaning and language to culture, and the representation of others' identity by Stuart Hall, as well as I get to the cultural hybridity of stated by Homike Baba, that he had one of the concepts that is really interesting to me. It's all cultural representation involve transformation rather than simple transmission. So that's why we have to aware what do we express and construct at the same time to our audience, right? And we also use Arts and Apaturi's work on mediascape and ideoscape, when we use the medium to transfer some of the images or even the representation of some culture to the audience, that's going to be some limitation, and however it can be one of the threshold for another creativity. And then we took ratio we talk about like the primitive passion that East Asian cultural representation are constructed through the process of self-orientation and transnational context. From that, we provide lots of the visual evidence as well as the political and historical evidence to inspire and visualize the stage as much as possible. That we found some of the visual inspiration from Japanese ukiyo-e that help us to develop more in artistic design, aesthetic design, as well as set design. And we also get back to review the previous production that have done for using Ubasate legend into the media. So we found Ballad of Narayama by Shohei Imamura and Keisuke Kinoshita and other works that I didn't mention here, right? So I do the so the next step, we do the dramaturgical collaborations across the production domains, right? Okay, this is the thing that we did together. Okay, right. So I join and work with them and co-create with them during the production. So firstly, I work with the playwright, which is we work a lot with the playwright. And firstly, the writer himself tried to work with the how can we say, the switching of the gender as gender reconfiguration. They transform the relationship from tradition in the original story from traditional mother and son relationship in Ubasite legends to father-daughter dynamic to be fit to some dimension in like societal and communal culture in Thailand. And he also need to use the poetic prose as the primary medium of the character dialogue to present a kind like the conditions of distant nearness to make it seems like it's quite ancient day. And he even want to use the Momotaro folktales as the montage element to the narrative to make a kind like the surrealistic effects onto and in between of the realistic world that he created. And from that, okay, I did the dramaturg functions that engagement with the script development and address fundamental structural consideration of rhythm, tempo, and dramatic beats, which is like the playwright feedback to me that this is one of the most important part, which is like if you have no other eyes to help us to reshape, this is one of the very difficult. Another, I work with the director, and we have to have like a very good relationship between each other because it's risking to be fighting a lot, right? But now it's so good for me because we have like our friendly collaboration all together. And well, I would like to change the to transform from the literary source material to live performance. That it's, and we have to think in another step because now it's route to the digital presentation at the end, right? So this sensitive engagement with directorial vision preference, we recognize that all creative impulse necessarily serve the production contextual requirements. Right, this is the thing that we found now, and the dramaturg employed as constructive inquiry rather than direct contradiction when addressing potential problematic directorial choices to make the work becomes more better in at least in during the process of working, and enhancement and deepening conceptual framework. And I work with them to expand the conceptual dimensions of directorial ideas, providing historical and cultural theoretical context that enrich their implementation. And the dramaturg serve as the connective functions within the director's creative process to identify the productive relationships between seemingly disparate production elements, right? And at last, in terms of visual, the dramaturg provided extensive visual references and contextual evidence specific to rural Japanese environment. Back then, according to our research, we think that, okay, we will apply the historical context during Edo period of Japan with one faraway and remote village that we call Shinano. So it will be a little bit different picture of the mainstream Japanese thing that we have found or even know in Thailand back then. And I offer some experimental approaches that address both aesthetic and pragmatic concerns to suggest the process that can achieve desirable visual effects while respecting budgetary and temporal constraint. And I keep doing the critical feedback on visual elements that maintain consistent awareness both of socio-cultural context and aesthetic impact. And because of this, when I got the peer interview, they said that this evaluative function negotiates the essential balance between the historical authenticity or even artistic innovation and practical functionality, ensuring that design choices serve both cultural presentation and theoretical effectiveness, right, within the context and conditions. And the dramaturg here then and again serve as the connective function within the director creative process as well for them. And I be the one who like guide them or to suggest them to apply lots of the cultural assets that we have researched to put it into the mise en scène and all of these things. And the last picture that you would see here, it's like the end product of one scene of the performance. Okay, right. So the thing I would like, the findings back then is that after I revised lots of the information that I gained from them, and I make post peer interview with them, that we can like divide it into 3 points. Firstly, the dramaturg functions at the third eyes and perform the perform the position as the in-house critic that constitutes a vital third eye within the creative ecosystem and bring the team members a specialized expertise to respective domains, and their immersion in specific creating problems may inadvertently limit in their perceptual field. Now we make the connection between them and find out the bridge between like the units in the production, and we occupy a uniquely advantageous position and maintain sufficient proximity to understand creative intention as the feedback before all of these things appear in the eye of the audience of it, right? And we meditate the originality and tradition. Mostly, one of the intention of the director, she would like to make something that we call second originality. The story itself is not original, but she tried to make another version that tried to be, because this is the first time of the adaptation of Ubasiteyama legend in Thailand. So the recreation or adaptation process needs a complex negotiation between creative innovation and respectful engagement with the source material. And I do, as an in-house critic, we do functions as a mediator on this delicate relationship and facilitating the creation of what may be termed secondarily originality that would be simultaneously acknowledges its inspirational foundation while establish its own distinctive artistic identity according to the vision of the creative team, and fulfill the departmental creative visions not through the passive approval but through proactive contribution of creative solutions and carefully curated options that expand artistic possibility, and at the same time make them cross altogether well through this methodical inquiry and constructive assessment. The dramaturgs, and we have to like recollect all of these separate component into a unified aesthetic experience by encompassing both tangible spectacle and intangible conceptual elements altogether, and ensuring that visual presentation, narrative structure, and cultural presentation achieve harmony without sacrificing complexity. And this function as connective tissue within the production organism, ensuring that the each artistic choice contributes to a coherent whole while maintaining the distinctive character of the individual creative contribution. And at last, right, okay, so as a critical function represent a contribution that extends beyond mere reference provision, but from this evaluative presence establish a safety net for entire creative team and mitigating anxieties that inevitably accompany in innovative risk taking, and we solve the problem together, because it's the way to criticize them, it has been divided into micro critical perspective, and then not just only help them to find out what's the missing pieces that they need to develop, but we try to provide some of the solutions that in the under the context or a condition of making and develop the production before we show in front of the eyes of the audience. And that's it. Okay, right. So that is all my presentation here.
Thank you very much, Dona Navatrapi. And now it's time to open a Q&A. So please, you can ask some people.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Okay, reading 3 articles made me feel like it was reading very well written theater critiques. Do you agree? When listening to 3 scholars, because in all aspects that you criticize or analyze your performances or the performances of the artists in your countries, it seems you put the role of critique already, and it's very impressed me. So let me repeat 3 articles again. Trans, the dynamics of life, and theater in terms of trance. And then Ghost, from the past, trans-temporal viewing of the present, right? Present or present? Present or present? This. Present, okay. Yeah. In Japan's recent theater and dramaturge as internal critique in revisitation, cross-cultural collaboration and co-creation in the case study of Ubazute. Okay, for Professor Lee, the three trans are very interesting because they are divided into different genres, forms, and presentation, from novels to plays discussing the trans from different theatrical forms. In Cheng, from the person named Choi Chok to Tangzo is Korean fruit, right? And from a man life journey to be his family. So this a little bit kind of trans. So I think a lot about translation and adaptation and merge into tradaptation. I think that the artist must think when do something from novel to theater. And the second one, the real life space to virtual space in discovery of the sun. It reminds me to think about Sleep No More, the immersive theater, the way of presentation. And last but not least, about human friend to an AI friend. The stories and legend is a name of the story. This made me think about Steven Spielberg movie. I thought you don't know that because it's produced in 2001. 24 years ago, the story named AI, Artificial Intelligence. It has family, it has a son, and he got coma. And then they try to make a robot and name him David to replace his son if he passed away. But finally, at the end of the story, his son's still alive, and they throw David away. But at that time, even David is not a human being, but he learned to love like a human being. So the question is about his love is real, but he himself is not real. And 24 years passed already. Until now, I see what is friends and AI friends and legend, right? Okay, the name of the story again. I miss it. The stories and legend. Okay, so what happened after 24 years and now and in the future about AI and human being? And for Professor Noda, you use the context of real life laws in political issues to connect with theater, discussing trauma and loss, which reminds me when I was once an actress in a historical play. I portray many historical characters. Some still are alive and some have passed away. While rehearsing, I critique those characters in the story. Why did she did that? And then I critique me myself as an actress who performed that role. And then finally, I critique the real socio-historical that happened to my country. So then I will have a question for you for this. And you remind me to think about Aristotle's word. It's a moral anger. We can use this to present something that we cannot direct, say, particularly in the country that the law of censorship is quite, severe. And for Napadra P, Professor Napadra P, you present a role of dramaturge working cross-cultural context and what is important, including both cultural appropriation and cultural appropriateness. Because there's a lot of trans in your production from Japanese novel translation into Thai, and then one Thai director used this to show in stage drama, and in the COVID time we have to shooting this drama into film, and there's a lot of trans in that, and you show about the dramaturge role. So I will ask a question, only one question for one presenter. For Professor Lee, what do you see as the differences between these three distinction trans And as a critique, what is the most crucial threshold in these three trans issues? For Professor Noda, considering censorship that I told before towards political issues in some places, how can a dramaturge delve into the content in a way that presents it effectively? And for Professor Napatrapi, we're discussing the theme of elderly abandonment. What are the important aspects to consider when addressing the differing worldviews of audiences from different cultures and countries? Is it necessary to make it universal, or should it be adapted in different way? Because you said about Katanyu and like gratitude in the way of Thailand, you know. And myself on Monday, I have to say beyond Greng Jai is consideration in Thai way to the Harvard students that will visit Chulalongkorn University. So we got some specific, translation and meaning to culture. So is it necessary or not to make it universal, in your opinion? So, yeah, the question. So, what do you see as a difference between these three distinctive trans in different genres, forms, and the presentation?
As you already followed, there are crucial differences between these three productions because one was from novel to theater, and the other one was from the space. It's concerning the space, the real life space into a virtual theatrical space. And the third one is just a matter of character, right? Yeah, so it's from the story we can witness AI friend more familiar than human friend. So the perspectives are all different, but my conclusion is they all show human being at the threshold of being not certain of what he is. And also the main interesting part is it also deals with the aesthetic of theatrical performance as well. Since Ko Sun-ung, the director of Tungso Sound, which was very interesting, was the actor Ho Jae Lee, just to show up at the starting point and say, "My name is Ho Jae Lee, actor." Just he presents himself as an actor, and then at the final scene, I played old Chechuk's role, but that was not me. I was Lee Han Choi, the writer himself. So his identity just shifts all the way from the beginning to the end. He's playing, the director was playing with all these identities floating. That was a very interesting part, which was not seen in his previous production. So when I saw your theme of trance, I just picked up this production, so we can have various speculation about trance itself. Even though theater itself just to symbolize the trance itself, but this specific productions has some different perspective, but showing the essence of trance in their distinctive way.
Thank you for your wonderful question. Am I correct in rephrasing your question like this? How can a dramaturg counter censorship?
About the politic issue in some country that's quite severe and censorship, and how can help to make the
how can a dramaturg help
Yes.
all the other creators
Yes.
to live with censorship or live under censorship? All right, great. Yeah. Well, there have been many prior cases, and usually what they do is try to figure out with all the other creators the metaphor, the right metaphor that they can choose, which would not trigger censorship, and that has been usually done in the guise of staging classics like Shakespeare's. That's what's happened in Czech, I suppose. Yeah, and another way is to shift the time in the culture and cultural register, and that's what happened in Japan during the Edo period, where censorship was very strong. But at the same time, there was so exorbitantly, gorgeously staged kabuki pieces, and what they did was to just transpose temporarily, transpose in time the current incident to some historical event. But you see, they are all technical things, and I'm not quite sure, say, like, if Bo, for example, find it satisfying. Yeah, and because these days, not only censorship, and well, officially censorship does not exist in Japan, but there is much stronger opponent that we are facing. That is zone flooding, and your brain is so inundated with so many agendas, decrees, one after another, that you and media space, for that matter, is wiped away by the flood of information that keeps on changing. So how can you counter that? Well, I think all you can do is to show someone on stage who is at a loss what to do. And the two shows that I discussed were the cases in point. They showed the kind of people who still have not figured out what to do with their sense of bewilderment, the sense of loss, the sense of disaffection, disappointment, and if the environment that they are put in, it can be seen as some objective correlative to the audiences, those of the audiences, then still we can connect. That's what I think.
Okay. The question is quite interesting, and firstly, I would like to answer your question with this project. It's sincerely a functional one, because we would like to talk about like elderly problems that happen, and in the context of the global population now, but we're focusing on more specifically, we did it in Asian context, because I think in terms of commonality, we could share some bridge altogether. So that's why it's both. So to answer this question is, I think it's been both universal as well as particular at the same time, because we have some particular thing, we can make that bridge to some other out of the boundary of the culture or history or something like that. But let's say this broadly, we all have old people living in our world, right? And we all love our parents, so that's why, right? Or even though we are their neighbor, okay, we will want to see like these societies become, I don't want to make it into hedonistic perspective, but we need to like develop this, because this problem is going to be more and more growing up, right? So that's why we will have this kind of core tragic feeling, or I prefer to use the word the affects, that people may get attached to so easily. But in particularly way, it's I think that because our director has the vision to apply from the original Japanese folktale into some context for Thai audience mainly. So that's why we apply this. So that's why we have some of the conditions to transform something, right? In terms of recreating or retelling this story. But at the same time, then and again, we talk about that. Firstly, we didn't want to make it into like the digital publication like that. So the original one is much more deepening in terms of the spiritual or moralities more. But when it turns to be the digital, how can we say, perception, something has been revised to be a little bit more easier in order to like you to communicate to this message or this cultural context en masse. So that's why this is we are living with kind of limitation in terms of the conditional context like this. So that's why it became like that. It's gonna be so trans as we just mentioned.
Thank you very much for these answers, and also we have 20 seconds for Q&A from the participants of the conference and workshop participants. So if you have a question which without answer we cannot leave this room, please come on with the question. Because the lunch is designed from 15 to 1 and 1:30, the workshop for young critics starts. And at 2:00 starts next panel of the conference. So
I think we can, if I may suggest, we can keep the question for the last session, like later this afternoon. Yeah, but we should keep to our time.
yeah,
But,
I understand. So so thank you for this Asian panel, transtemporal and transcultural. Thank you for all contributors, and see you in a lunch break.
Yes, thank you very much, Hannah, for moderating this session, and that includes our Zoom and Facebook Live broadcast. Okay, so we're now off the air. Okay, please, we're off the air. Okay, so I can continue with some housekeeping remarks. Okay, all right, we have lunch for everybody on the 6th floor. Okay, which is a theater foyer. So take an elevator to the 6th floor and Thai lunch, buffet style again. Yeah, don't expect anything like last night. Okay, this is more moderate. And for the Young Critics Workshop, so Young Critics Workshop, we have 44 minutes to finish your lunch. Okay, and your workshop will start at 1:30. Okay, and I've already sent the information to your WhatsApp. Okay, the room for the workshop is on the 4th floor. Okay, the two rooms together. Okay, one is French and one is English. Okay, so please, young workshop participants, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you tonight. Okay, tonight you're coming back to the theater where you're having lunch. Please be there at 7:10. Okay, because the performance will start at 7:30, and you can bring your +1. We have tickets for your +1s as well. But please see Pai. Yeah, Pai, whom you met last night. A Thai guy with short hair, not like this, with eyeglasses, and he has all our tickets. Okay, so I'll see you back there at 7:10. Of course, thank you very much, the young workshop participant, and for the conference participants, we will start again at 2. Okay, 2 p.m. Okay. Yes, you can leave your things here. We will take care of your belongings for you. Okay. Thank you very much for this morning.